Unmute right now.
Meeting you in live, she was expecting anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna go to anything.
Right, Katie's on, just no picture.
Okay, that's like Ally. Right, we're muted.
So can you,
We are wondering if you can hear us in the sanctuary. We can hear ourselves. What does that say? I hear him now.
We
but
can
it's-
hear you now.
It's terrible sound, but we can hear you.
We can hear you with a bridge behind you.
Rabbi, ask everybody to mute themselves on there. On this.
Okay.
so I think we're not using this anymore. We're only,
Can you mute, sir? Can you just mute everybody? Yeah?
except for Bev.
You should get, do you have that strong?
Yep. It's unmuted.
We're unmuted. We need this to be muted. This.
That's what I'm saying. Ask everybody on there.
Everybody on Zoom, can you mute yourself, please?
Or unless it's the audio coming out. from
Okay,
here.
you know what, hold this. I'm gonna go leave the.
Right? I'm sorry? I understand. I'm okay. Can folks hear me on Zoom? Yes, no?
Okay, I see nods. I see nods that they can hear
You can hear me and we're not hearing it.
Yes.
Okay. Mhm.
Good enough.
Okay. Oh, we turned the mic on. No, sorry. We're using this. That's why I brought this over. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So. It somehow feels, okay, you folks can hear me on Zoom, yeah? You're nodding, okay. Somehow feels appropriate, Bev, that this is complicated.
Yes.
Because just like your brother, yeah, we talked about this, yeah. So this might even be him, right? Giving us a little bit of like, oh, you want to have a service? You want to be solemn? You want to be you want to make with the prayers and all that stuff? Those are not my papers. No, they're just random papers. It's a good place to store them, don't you think? Just if you've got any stuff in your house, just leave it in the sanctuary. It's good. Not that I'm bitter. So yeah, it's this kind of Shiva, Bev. Where things are a little off and things are, in a crazy world. This is things sometimes get a little crazy. So this is a space here where we offer memories. Yeah. And they can be any kind of memories. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. You're seeing behind the curtain. Everybody's seeing how the sausage is made, right? And we don't. So when we remember it's kosher sausage. Don't start. I'll come over there. We don't sugarcoat this. This is a complicated life and a complicated legacy. And that doesn't take away from the fact that there's so much love and there's so much affection for this complicated guy. And so we're going to invite you up to share some memories, and then the room will be open for any other folks who would like to share at this time. Yeah. And we're speaking into this phone of yours.
Yours.
Okay.
So just one more check, everybody on Zoom can hear me, yeah? Anybody, yeah?
Hi,
Okay.
Bev, we can hear
So,
you.
I totally think this is David screwing with us. I mean, I really have little doubt, and anybody who knows David would think the same thing, and he's laughing about this somewhere, but that said, first, Andrew and I really want to thank so many people in this room in our CBH community and friends and neighbors and people who came to support us. Many of you know my mother. She came here for 20 straight years for high holiday services. And so many of you know her and love her. And, on Zoom are so many friends and relatives and friends of all of ours growing up. And so we're just very happy to see all of you. My younger brother, David, was the middle child of the 3 Korfin kids. We were all born in New Jersey. I have a very sweet early memory of him when I was about 5 and he was maybe 2. I would always sleep later than him. And when I came downstairs, he would run over, throw his arms open, call my name and give me a big hug as if he hadn't seen me in days. It's just a very sweet memory of him that I'll always have. David was a rambunctious, mischievous child and a serious instigator. Many of the times when I got in trouble with my parents when we were kids, his fingerprints were all over what had happened. As is often the dynamic between older sisters and younger brothers, he took special pleasure in annoying me at every opportunity. My mom asked me to include the famous Korfin family tasty cake story. So Mom, this is for you.
I'm just gonna turn your video on.
So those of you who grew up in the Northeast are familiar with Philadelphia-based tasty cake cupcakes. And as we know, the best snack food ever. Just saying. Yeah, and the longest shelf, yes. And the longest shelf life, which actually fits into this story. So when we were young, Mom went shopping every Thursday for the week. She was an impeccable planner, and there were rarely trips to the supermarket on other days besides Thursday. One of the things she always bought was one large box of tasty cake chocolate cupcakes, and there were 9 packages inside. Allegedly, there were 3 for each of us. Now, my MO, which is no surprise for those of you who know me well, was to try to ration them so they lasted for the week, right? Not David. David enlisted our younger brother, Steve, as his willing accomplice to eat as many in the first 2 days as possible. So the game was on. I took my 3 packages and tried to hide them. And his mission was search and destroy, find them and eat them. And I quickly ran out of creative, unique places to hide my stash. One time, I successfully hid a package in my snow boot in the back of my closet and then promptly forgot until I pulled my boots out for the first time the next winter and felt a hard lump of petrified cupcakes in the bottom of the boat. This was a major triumph for David. He thought that was fantastic. When David was about 10, the family moved to Allentown, Pennsylvania, where we all spent several happy years and made many lifelong connections. David was a good athlete, especially in baseball, as I remember it. He was an active participant in all the sports programs at the Allentown JCC and at Camp Adventure in the summer. He had a great group of friends who loved to hang out at our house because, as they've told us over the years, my mom made the best snacks and dinners. And some of those buddies are here on Zoom tonight. By the time David was a senior in high school, he was ready to get out of the house and move on with his life. Somehow he got away with skipping a large chunk of his senior year and still graduated with a B average. He would drive Steve to school every day. I was already in college. So David would drive Steve to school every day. And Steve said he always knew if David was going to school, left turn, or if he was going home to go back to bed, right turn. He went to college at the University of Pittsburgh and got serious about his education. After graduation, he attended the Temple University School of Podiatric Medicine in Philadelphia. He enrolled in a surgical residency program in Houston in 1982 and lived there ever since then. He was a board-certified foot and ankle surgeon specializing in reconstructive procedures, and he maintained a solo practice and also performed operations in surgical centers with several area Houston hospitals. He had numerous professional affiliations and titles, including Fellow of the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons, Diplomat of the American Board of Podiatric Surgery, and past president of the Harris County Podiatric Medical Society. Both of my brothers followed in my father's footsteps and were avid golfers. They loved to play together and loved comparing their scores. And David also had a big group of golf buddies in Houston who would travel to golf resorts together, capped off by a tour of the courses of Scotland a few years ago. He was a huge Houston Astros fan. He and I had a lot of fun watching, texting, betting on, and trash talking about the 2021 World Series between the Astros and the Braves. I ultimately had more fun because the Braves won. David had a very quick, often sarcastic wit and a great deadpan delivery. Now, I tell this story with my mother's permission. I preface the story by saying it was perhaps the time I laughed harder than any other occasion ever, and will always be a great memory of him, maybe the best. When Mom was a teenager, her hair inexplicably began to thin. By the time she was in her 30s, she began wearing her very stylish wigs that she wears to this day. About 17 years ago, she had a heart valve replacement. And of course, after surgery, she wasn't wearing her wig, and she only had a small turban covering her head. So David, Steve, Andrea, and I went up to her ICU room post-op. And the surgeon, the ICU nurse, and the respiratory therapist were all there. So the respiratory therapist said, "Can I ask you a question? What happened to her hair?" And Steve began to tell the standard story when she was a teenager, blah, blah, blah. But David interrupted him. And in a very loud, very alarmed voice, he said, "What do you mean? She had hair when we brought her in here. What did you people do to her?" I will never forget looking up to see 3 shocked faces, mouths wide open, eyes the size of dinner plates staring at us. We all almost literally fell on the floor, laughing so hard we were crying. It was vintage David Korfin. David was predeceased by our father, Al. He is survived by our mother, Lee, his wife, Brenda, daughters, Allie and Katie, his 3 grandchildren, Allie's son, Ethan, and her daughters Emma and Ellie, Andrea and me, our brother Steve and sister-in-law Liz, niece Lisa Yanowitz and her husband Andrew and great niece Riley, niece Allie Black and her husband Corey, and nephew Zach and his girlfriend Sarah. He will be very missed by all of us. So, assuming we have this down technically, we'd like to open the floor to anybody on Zoom who'd like to say something. And if you would unmute or raise your hand or sometime indicate you want to speak, then hopefully Joshua can unmute you and you can say whatever you want. I think maybe Steve, my brother, would like to go first.
I think if you mute that phone and now we unmute one of you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can
So
you, oh,
Yes. Go ahead.
can you hear me?
you're coming through on this phone,
Okay.
but we're gonna try.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dave's brother, Steve.
Hold on one second, Steve, because we can. Well, so what I,
See if we can get it back on.
We can hear him.
right, so the folks now in the room can't hear us. Try one more time, Steve.
This is Dave's brother, Steve.
Still coming through just on the phone. Let's put it. Oh, Haley's here. All right, hold on, Steve. Yeah. All right, Steve, we're gonna put you on pause just for a second, okay?
Okay.
All right, we think it's gonna work now, or do we need another minute? Oh,
You're hearing.
okay, so. You got any ideas for a song? So he's coming out of the.
Mike's off.
All right, is this working out? Okay. Okay, hold on. All right, I think Steve, you can go ahead.
Great, thank you. These circumstances are making it difficult to properly say goodbye to Dave. When someone leaves the earth so abruptly, those who are left behind have so many unanswered questions. So I would like to say that David was my best friend, my brother, my golf buddy, and so much more. No one knows what he was wrestling with. The only words that come to mind are, may he now rest in peace. Not a day will go by where I won't want to reach out to him and text him about just about anything. And able to take us to different things that we talked about. So I guess all that's left to say is, I will see you on the other side, my brother. I love you.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? You can unmute yourself.
Good now?
Did you say your mom is Lee? Yeah. Is she there? Steve, does your mom want to say something or no?
You want
And
to?
I just want to say thank you for all of you who have joined us tonight. I really appreciate it and love you all. Thank you.
Did you get that?
You guys did. Yeah, we heard you.
Okay.
And we're here and surrounded you with a ton of love. A lot of love. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak either here in the room or on Zoom?
I think of stories when I see some of you. Is that Barry Friedman up in the corner? Yes, you have a story about you remember going to the Sunday school and you and David would take off and leave and go play the pinball machine? Do you
Oh, wait,
remember?
what, they would skip out of school and play pinball? Is that what you just said?
Yes, the Hebrew school.
Oh, skip out of Hebrew school.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
He's not gonna incriminate himself.
Yeah, not gonna, okay. I remember. And what else? Look at who else? David Balk going to Pittsburgh with, and Pittsburgh was lovely, Bobby Korfin there, right? We had dinner up in a restaurant that overlooked. What did it overlook, David? You remember? No? It was a beautiful sight. Something, anyway.
He's muted.
Yeah, David's muted, okay,
So,
It's,
pass it on.
yeah.
okay.
That's
All right, Carol and Harvey, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think we knew these kids because I lived with you after my mother died.
Mm-hmm.
And Carol and I babysat all three of these rotten kids on Stell Avenue in Plainfield.
Yeah, yes, it
That was
did.
only 60 some odd years ago, just like yesterday.
Where David was about, well, Stephen was less than a year, so David was around 4, and we were watching for the weekend, and you had put up a play set in the backyard, and he was coming down the slides standing up. Okay, and when we ran out in the yard
My
to
God.
tell him that he couldn't do it, his hands went to his hips, and he said, "My mother said I can."
Wow. Remember when he started kindergarten, the night before, he was out on this play swing and walked on top of the swing, not in the swing, but on the bar, and fell. And after I put him in the bathtub to take the dirt off, because it was in September or August, Al took him to the hospital, and he ended starting kindergarten with a cast on his arm. Yeah. Oh, yes, yes, yes. So many memories, so many memories. I have three fantastic kids. Anyway. I see Perkles left. Okay, anyway, speak. Anybody gonna speak?
David.
Yeah, I'd
Anyone
like to
else?
say a word. David was an exceptional friend and an exceptional athlete. All came to Allentown. We really took a tremendous liking to outsider, which generally never happened before. And David fit in, and Steve Callum also. Both kids came from North Jersey and from New York. And they became part of the Allentown family. Both fit in beautifully, and we had a really super group of kids. And today, though we're all over the world, some of us still stay in touch. And we are very sorry to have lost David. And we are sorry that we were not in touch with him during all these years. Some of us have made up over the last couple of years, and we look forward to recreating our good friendships as children growing up. Lee, and Bev and Steve and your extended families, on behalf of all of us from Allentown, we are very sorry, and we share in your loss. And David was an exceptional man. And I'm sorry I didn't get to know him as a grown-up.
Anybody else?
I'll say it's Steve. Those are beautiful sentiments, Scott. And I think you spoke for all of us. You know, we know each other as children. And then I was lucky enough I lived with David when we were in college. So got to know him as a sarcastic, super intelligent, and sharp-witted man. We had a great relationship, but we were always cutting each other up. And we got a lot of fun out of doing that. One of the things that many people may not know is that,
I unmuted.
am I on mute? I better not be on
No,
mute.
we can hear you.
Yeah, David was at one time in his life, probably about 5'11", when we were together, we lived, and he was a bouncer for a bar, a very, very high-end and disco bar where they'd pack him in. And I was a bartender there, and David Balk was the manager. So this was in Philadelphia, Oxford Valley, Pennsylvania. We kind of rebuilt our childhood, and David, being 5'11" and maybe 175, was the guy who was responsible for letting people in and making sure that everybody was keeping order. And if anybody got out of shape, David would be the one who was supposed to throw them out. But what he used was his sharp wit and sharp tongue to defend and stop people, who were maybe drank too much or were getting out of control. And then if things got to the next level, he'd be really fast on the draw with a flashlight. And out of nowhere, there'd be 5 or 6 huge guys coming and throwing people out. So it was kind of a really unusual scene. We did that, and then he'd go to podiatry school the next day. So it was quite a transition, and I was a senior in college. So they're great memories, and we got really tight over that time, and we'll all miss him a lot.
Hi.
I didn't know that, Steve and David.
Yeah.
Can anybody hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Who is this? We can hear you, but who are you?
Stephen Herzog. I'm in Houston, Texas.
Hi, Steve.
And
we can hear you.
I heard drinking too much, and that made me think of our cigar exchange, our annual cigar exchange. And that's how I know David, through Eric Berkman and Ronnie Turboff, and he'll be missed. We would share rides together and get drunk every year for the last 25 years. So one of those guys can pipe in and say something, because they've been playing golf with him for as long as that.
Oh.
This is Abby Berkman. I am the wife of Eric Berkman, one of the Houston longtime friends and golfers of David. I have been asked to speak on behalf of Greg Rosenberg, who is another very close friend of David's and Houston crew, as it relates to the golfing buddies that David held so fondly, and the gentlemen obviously holding David so fondly in their hearts as well. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read what Greg Rosenberg sent on his behalf.
He's in Israel.
Oh,
So he
thank
can't-
you.
he can't
Thank
speak
you.
English.
Thank you. He was unfortunately unable to hop on the Zoom with us. Yes, because he's in Israel.
Greg is a friend.
Yes, Greg is a dear friend of David's. First of all, my apologies for not being on the Zoom this evening. Melanie and I, his wife, are in Israel, and with an 8-hour time difference, it simply was not feasible to be on it. I want to thank Abby for agreeing to read this for me. The most important thing for all of us to do is shift our focus to the way David lived as opposed to the way it ended. David was a great friend to many, and to many, he not only was a great friend, but a well-accomplished surgeon who cared greatly for the needs of his patients. I can attest to that every time I take a step. Because 15 years ago, when I could barely take a step without significant pain, we made a decision to operate on both of my feet at the same time. David was smart enough to know enough about me that if we didn't do both together, I would have never gone back for the second and would have continued to limp around. He had the wisdom to schedule it for the day before the British Open that year. So I would have 4 straight occupied recovery days. His wisdom in telling me to put money on Anthony Kim to win it that year was the only downside. Needless to say, the surgery and recovery went well. More important than his skill as a surgeon and being a dedicated friend, David's passion was his girls. He lived his life for both. We have seen Katie develop into the amazing young woman she has become, and he was so very proud of Allie's development as a lawyer and mother. There was never enough he could do for the girls, and when a situation warranted my involvement to help Allie out in a situation she was dealing with recently, he made sure that I was on top of everything I possibly could. He only wanted the best for them. Our relationship was uniquely special in so many ways that are too numerous to share in this short time. To say that David's loss places an unspeakable void on all those who loved him so much is an understatement of substantial proportion. The only thing we can hope for is that the blessing we have all been touched with by his life is perpetuated by the blessed memories we all have for him. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. I have had the pleasure of knowing David for almost 15 years. He was not only my husband's dear friend, but my dear friend. He was a partner in 3 of our surgery centers and 1 surgical hospital over the past 15 years. He was a compassionate doctor who was very much loved by his patients, his colleagues, and everyone with whom he worked. I loved most the way he lit up when he talked about his daughters. And I loved seeing the secondhand love that these gentlemen, who many are on the call tonight, had for each other, and their silly, rambunctious golf stories, whether it be local or via travel. I'm honored to have called him a partner, but he was so much more than that. He was a great friend, father, grandfather, and was truly a leader among his peers. I'm going to miss him terribly. He's going to be missed by all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. So,
You're muted again?
no, sorry. Yes. Anything else?
Bev, your phone is muted.
Ooh.
I'd like to speak if possible. Can everybody hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. My name is Steve Lieberson. I'm actually, I guess I only knew the adult Dave. I met Dave about 25 years ago when I relocated down here from New Jersey, oddly enough. And I think the rules are if you're Jewish foot doctor moves to Houston, you have to kind of meet everybody. So I got to know Dave professionally through the years, and I can say that it's always a pleasure to deal with him. He was always very personal, very helpful through the years. He did become a mentor of mine in over the last 10 to 12 years or so. And I've gotten to know his patients because we practiced relatively close. So when David was on these golf outings, he would kindly ask me if I could cover for him, and it was my honor to do that since he told me how he'd beat up on everybody when he was away. So his patients respected him and loved him. They continue to. I want Dave Spelling to know that I've seen his patients over recent weeks, and they've all been asking about him and his family and you, and sending their prayers out to everybody. He was truly loved by everybody and very respected, and it's a huge loss. But I'm sure he's in a better place.
Can you? Can you? Still coming. Yeah. Figure it out. All right, trying now. Can the folks on Zoom hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay. Okay, we had started before the memorial prayer, El Malay Rachamim. So we're going to, now if I turn this on, let's see what happens. Is this gonna, yeah, you can hear me in the room and you can hear me on Zoom, yes? Thumbs up, okay. All right, we'll invite folks to rise again in body or spirit. El Malay Rachamim is on 135. Thanks. El Malay Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashkina B'malot Kedoshim Utorim Kezohar Harakia Masirim Et Nishmat Tevye ben Avram Varachalea Shalach Lolamo Bal Harachamim Yastirehu Beseter Kanafav Leolamim Vayitzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato Adonai Hunachalato Vianuach Al Mishkavo Bashalom Venomar Amen. El Malay Rachamim, God full of compassion, who dwells in the highest of high places, grant full rest under the wings of Shekhinah, under your sheltering presence, and the heights of the holy and pure who shine like the glowing of heaven, to the soul of Tevye ben Avram Barachalea, David Korfin, who has gone to his eternity. Merciful one, protect him under your wings forever and bind his soul in the bonds of eternal life. Adonai is his inheritance. May he rest in his resting place in peace. And we say amen. We remain standing. Turn to page 88 and 89 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shenatan lanu Torah emet, v'chayehi olam nata betochenu. 91. V'anachnu korim Umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Join me on 95 in the English from Judy, Chicago. And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again. You may be seated. Kakatuv b'toratecha Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo Ushemo Echad. From Marge Piercy on page 99. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot always tell by looking what is happening. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like squash that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and layers. Live as if you liked yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time, not always. For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. In a moment, we will conclude with Kaddish for a guy named Tevye. Yes. Reading on page 98. Did I forget? I forgot. I apologize. Did you want to come up and read it, or do you want me to read it? Come on up. Yeah, forgive me, I did forget.
Thank you.
What's supposed to happen? You can hold on to the slideshow for a second. Not yet. All right.
Birth is a beginning. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. And life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until, looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting.
All right, folks on Zoom, just give me another thumbs up if you can hear us. Yeah, okay. Okay, good. So we're going to say Kaddish. That's how we're going to finish this service. We're going to say it for a guy named Tevye, which is Yiddish for the goodness of God. And that's going to be hard to square that circle now with this kind of death and his experience in our lives and the experience he was having within him. So how do we do that? A couple things. First of all, we're going to keep remembering you've got pictures, yeah? And we're going to pass those around, Bev, yeah? You already passed them around. Oh, we're going to keep looking at them, even though they're snacks and whatnot. The socializing is going to come back to the power that's within that soul and the mischief and the fun and the good memories that we have of an irrepressible spirit. So that's one way the goodness is going to keep going. And the other way is that if we use this as a reminder that when people are suffering, that we're called to build connections, like Marge Piercy said, with them. This isn't what's happened is not about character or about personality. This is about mental illness. And we have to say that. And we know about autoimmune disease in which the body goes against itself in a way to protect itself, right? And so we know that when this happens, this is the brain thinking it's doing the right thing. Something's gotten crossed up. And we remember that there's no judging this, that we need to take care of each other. If you don't know, there's the number 988, that's a crisis line, that's a suicide line. Know it and tell people about it. And we do the best we can to remember that people who have illness need love and compassion and support and health care that's affordable and that's available. And that's what we struggle for, and that's what we strive for. And so when we're going to stand up for Kaddish, we're going to say, we're going to keep this guy's memory alive by smiling with him, even through tears in these pictures. And we're going to take care of each other and build a society where we keep reaching out and keep connecting and keeping the love going, because that's what's going to save us. So I invite you to rise in body or spirit. And if there's other names that you would like to add, I invite you to add those at this time. Hadisha Tome, page 103. Yit Gadal, B'yit Kadat, Kamei Rabbah, Be'alma Divra Chirute, Be'amlich Malchute, B'chayechon Uvyomechon, V'chaye Dechal Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv, V'imru Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Ulalme Almaya. Yit Barach, B'yishtabah, B'yit Pa'ar, B'yit Ramam, B'yit Naseh, B'yit Hadar, B'yit Alev, B'yit Halal, Shemei Dekudisha, Harichu. Le'ela min kol birchata b'shirata, tushbechata b'nechamata, damiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael V'al Yothvei V'Yimru. Amen. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. The memory of our righteous ones is always for a blessing. We say Amen. Thanks so much to everyone who came and supported these special people, and they appreciate it more than you can know. Thanks. I'll leave this. I don't know what you want to do with it. I'm done.
I'm gonna turn it off. He was the best boss I've ever had, even though he was a huge pain in my butt sometimes. Clusterfuck, but I think it all came together. Yeah. I think it all came together. Thank you. It really was. Thank you. I got to know him. He must have been a really funny guy. He was. He was. He wasn't come close to give you space. No, come close.
We've known each other. We don't wait.
It all came together.
You know, if you needed,
Most important.
if you needed a doctor, they.
Right, the most important, I mean, people heard the most important stuff. Yeah. Water in here. Probably what I'll think about more than anything else. I get it. Why do you want it? Know him a little more, yeah. I think you got it together. I just not. Right. There. It's not easy. Oh, my mother.